Blog Talk Radio.
Writing your book is the easy part. Promoting your book so readers can find and purchase it is the hard part. Welcome to the Author Chat Show, hosted by author-publisher Lynda D. Brown. Follow us at www.facebook.com/authorchat. And to contact the show to promote your book, contact me at theauthorchatshow@gmail.com. Stay tuned and listen to today's show.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Author Chat Show. I'm your host, Lynda D. Brown. My guest today is actually stopping by as part of her Right Now virtual book tour. Her name is author Mary A. Perez, and she's going to be chatting with me today about her book, Running in Heels. We'll be right back to chat with Mary after a word from today's sponsor.
Authors, do you have a marketing plan and budget to promote your books? The Author Chat Guide to Promoting Your Book on a Shoestring Budget, written by best-selling author Lynda D. Brown, host of the Author Chat podcast, has a list of author service providers eager to help you sell more books. To get your copy today, log on to smashwords.com.
All right. Today's show is also sponsored by author Nathalie M. Vasquez Mota. That is a mouthful. And he's the author of the book called The Semantics of SEO. The Searcher's Intent. This is the basic edition. For those of you that are into building websites or working with websites, you're very familiar with the acronym SEO, Search Engine Optimization. And the book talks about the practice of producing quality content and traditional marketing. So to find out who should be on your marketing team, if you have a team that you've already put together, to help you produce a quality website. The book, again, is called The Semantics of SEO, The Searcher's Intent, the basic edition. It is available on the Kindle for 99 cents. So please pick up your copy of the book today. All right, now let's go back to today's show. All right, welcome back to the show. Again, today's guest is author Mary A. Perez. Mary is stopping by to chat with us as part of her WNL virtual book tour. Mary, this is your first time on the show. Welcome aboard. How are you enjoying your tour?
Oh, I am enjoying it. It's the time of my life. And, Lynda, I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest on your show. I consider it an honor and a privilege.
Oh, well, thank you, Mary. It's actually our privilege to have you on today's show. We are partners with WNL, and we try to get as many authors as possible to come on the show so that they can promote their book. So I'm glad that you were able to go ahead and get that up and running for you. So you're actually doing a month tour, am I correct?
That is correct, a month tour. My little black book is getting full.
I've actually done one of those tours with Paulette, and you're right. You have to make sure that you remember, okay, I'm a radio here, blog post here, another radio show. But it's a fabulous way for indie authors to really get the word out about their book. So, again, congratulations for, number one, writing your book, and number two, for partnering with Paulette to go ahead and get your book out there so that those that really need to get this message, and you have a very powerful message into the hands of the readers that need to hear this. So let's go ahead and get started with you. Since this is your first time on our show, would you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I am Puerto Rican descent, who was born in the Bronx and raised in Miami.
Wow.
Houston, yeah, I'm like a little mutt. But in '77, we came to Houston, and I have been here ever since. And for some strange reason, when I start speaking, Houstonians know that I am not from here. They say I'm from up north or somewhere else, and they're pretty much right. But I don't know. I guess I don't have the twang.
So you've been in Houston a little over 17 years?
Yes, in '77.
Wow.
Now in 1991, is where I met my husband from California, and we married in '94. Now keep in mind, he married me with 4 children, and we now have 2 lovely grandchildren.
Oh, isn't that awesome? No, that is such a sweet story there, absolutely. And Mary, how long have you been writing?
I guess I've been writing pretty much all my life, but it was because of the prompting of my grandmother. When I lived with her for 2 years, around 9 and 10 years old, she always encouraged me to write family members by thank you cards or little letters. And then, of course, when I went to school, I enjoyed reading so much that I enjoyed reading book reports that she helped me do. So I always enjoyed writing. I did not become serious in this until about 2008, around there, when I decided that I wanted to write my life story for my children because they needed to know some things about the struggles of their mom. And
sure.
That's how it pretty much began. And the more I kept writing, of course, I was going by memories. I would jot down snapshots of these memories. I would look at pictures. I would remember stories from my mother and father, and, of course, my grandparents. And some of the things that I struggled with that when I was younger, I was very much ashamed of, and no one could really pull out of me my stories growing up. And it wasn't until I became much older that I thought, you know what, God brought me out for a reason, and I think I have something to say here. But I do have to say that it was the encouragement of my husband, as he started reading some of these things. He's the one who told me, you know, people need to hear your story. You have something here. So it was his encouragement that led me to where I am today.
That is awesome, Mary. And the fact that God blessed you with a man who is so supportive and, again, took on the responsibility of helping you rear 4 children. You are truly blessed.
Yes, everyone said to me during my time of being single, no one is going to want you with 4 children, you know. So in my mind's eye, I figured that I was going to be by myself, you know, and just one thing led to another. God had other plans for me, and I'm truly blessed. And my husband is just wonderful. I like to call him my quiet strength. And because, yeah, he really is. I'm more of an emotional and you know, my feelings, if I'm sad or if I'm happy or depressed, you know, he knows it and it's all out there. But he's more calm, relaxed, and just a quiet strength, the voice of reason.
Exactly. He's your yang to your yin, huh?
Exactly. That's right.
Exactly. And, you know, it drives me crazy when people say things like, oh, you'll never get married, nobody else. You know what? We have to always realize, especially those of us that are followers of Christ. I hesitate to say Christians because, you know, just because you have a garage doesn't mean you're a car. And just because you go to church doesn't mean that you're really a Christian. So I say those that really try to follow the teachings and the workings of Jesus. But, you know, as it states in the Bible, his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. And we never know what he's planned for us, because what he planned for us, Mary, he planned before the foundation of the earth. So, I'm so glad that you did not listen. And even if you did, you disregarded that. And when God blessed you with this wonderful man, you embraced it instead of, letting the little voices in the back of your head say, oh, yeah, nobody will ever want you with 4 kids. So.
Yeah.
All right, so,
It definitely was a struggle. Like most anyone, I did have to go through a lot of thinking and self-doubt. And, I'm just really blessed and fortunate that I met Mark, who believed in me before I believed in myself.
That is so awesome, Mary. That is really awesome. Now, and I love your, again, I've got some information about your book while I was setting up the interview. And honestly, I couldn't wait to talk to you about it, because this is something I've had women authors on the show before that have talked about some of the things that they struggled with, either through physical abuse, neglect, sexual abuse. And I think it's very important that we get these messages out there for those that are coming behind us. So the title of your book is called Running in Heels, a memoir of grit and grace. Let's start out by tell me how you came up with that title. I love that.
Well, in my writings, I do, I have that phrase in there where I'm running in heels after this but I think what I had in mind for the title is that running in heels in my story did not represent a quickness or a steadiness. In my case, running in heels is more of an unsteadiness. It is, she is always felt like she was wearing shoes that were too big for her. So it is more of a struggle. It is more of a hardship. It's more of a pain and a weariness. So even though, if you'll notice the picture, she's with those heels, but she's not always running as quick as she sets out to do or as quick as she wants to do, because there's always some hardships and some struggles in that.
Okay, great. And Mary, let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about your book. And the reason, like you said, you mentioned that you wrote this because your husband knew your story. He encouraged you to share this story with others as a way to help those that think that they're the only ones struggling with what you struggled with. So let's start with what happened with you when you were a child.
Pretty much. This is a memoir told in 3 parts about my journey as a coming-of-age Puerto Rican girl seeking love and security with a difficult mother, basically in a dilapidated home. And so I thought, I knew better, of course. I thought to escape poverty and neglect by running off, and basically I became a teenage bride to a ruthless man twice my age. And so what I was trying to run away from, basically, I just kind of went to the same thing, pretty much. So
I can really relate to that. Yeah, I can. I think a lot of women, especially Mary, and I'm not real sure what your age is, but I kind of grew up, let's say I was a child of the 70s, to give you some idea of where I am now. I'm definitely a grandmother as well. I kind of did the same thing. My childhood wasn't the best, and I kind of got married to kind of get away from that. So I think that people can truly relate to that.
Yes.
How did you meet your husband?
I'm sorry?
How did you meet the first husband?
Well, let's see. I met him. I was back and forth as a young teenager. When I say back and forth, living with my mom, living with on my own, living with family, relatives, friends. And I landed back in my mom's pad, and which we lived in an apartment, and he happened to live in the same complex. And basically, I saw him from a distance, and I would see when he would pass by the apartment, and eventually he noticed me, and, one day I was walking past him, and he did the whistle, and, he got my attention, but I kept walking, with my head held high, pretending like I didn't even notice him, and of course that got his curiosity, and one thing led to another, and we started chit-chatting. But I met him at an apartment complex where I was staying with my mom.
Okay. And so the relationship just kind of bloomed from there, so to speak?
Yeah, so to speak. I knew he was older than the boys I dated. I knew he was way older, but I guess I didn't realize how much older. And when I did find out, it really didn't matter. And then he knew I was younger, but let's just say my mom said to him one day, she's only 16, and I saw his eyes got big. I saw his eyes got big because he said I sure didn't act like I was 16, but we just continue on in the relationship. He was my knight in shining armor, my Prince Charming. He had the dimples and the smile and the broad shoulders, and he was just, I felt that he was everything that depicted strength, and he was going to take me away from my sorrowful, pathetic life, and that he was more mature. And honestly, I really felt like he had sold all his wild oats already than the guys I was dating. But I was in for a rude awakening.
We normally are. That's not a scathing indictment for my male listeners out there, but it seems, Mary, that let me make that clear before I get hate nut letters. But it seems that it's almost like the enemy knows where we're vulnerable. So they kind of send something that they know that we think is, like you said, God's gift from heaven, and it's actually the gift from hell. I can truly relate to that. Now, at the time that you met him, was your father in the picture?
Keep in mind, my parents were separated when I was 3, and they were divorced by the time I was 5. So my mom, the judge awarded my brother, who was 2 years older than me, the judge awarded him to go live with my dad and me to go live with my mom. And because the judge felt like, me being female needed to be raised by my mom and vice versa. Little did he know, the pitiful, growing up. But my mom did the best she could. She just she was just too wrapped up in her own interest, and there were a lot of things that she didn't know. I guess you can say parenting doesn't come, with the rules or
does not come with a manual. Absolutely. Yeah. And the sad thing, Mary, is I'm seeing a lot more of that type of thing that we did see back in the 60s and 70s, with a lot of the parents coming out of the hippie movement and thinking that children are self-sufficient. Starting to see that again with this newer generation, where I used to work at a public library, and they yell at a 2-year-old, and it's like, you know better. It's like he really doesn't. You kind of have to teach him. And and they kind of look at you like you're crazy, But Mary, there was something that really resonated with me when Paulette sent over your bio, and that was how you talked about. There was a sister that was born, and you ended up taking care of her. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. I was 7 years old when my little sister Anna was born, and she was everything to me. I was the one raising her and taking care of her, tending to her needs, while my mother and stepfather would go out. And so we did everything together. We were inseparable, and she was just really special. There was just something about her. Even when other people would lay eyes on her, they would say, she's just a living doll. She's just a living angel. And I was never jealous of her. I was proud, and I would tell everybody, she's my little sister. I'm her big sister. And it was just a beautiful thing. I will share this. I remember one evening we were playing on the floor. We were sitting on the floor, and we were looking at each other. And this dread came over me that I cannot explain. But as I looked at her, a sorrow came over me and a fear. And I remember saying out loud, God, please don't let anything happen to her. Please, God, don't let anything happen to her. Please, God, don't let anything bad happen to her. And I remember my sister's eyes were wide open. She had beautiful blue eyes. And she was looking at me quizzically, but she never asked she never asked me anything. And it just troubled me. And I remember sleeping that night. We would always say the prayers,
Sure.
If I should die before I wake, that type of prayer. And we went to sleep, and I never told anyone. I never mentioned that strange premonition to my mother.
Okay.
Now, when she was a month after celebrating her birthday, she turned 2. Sadly, she was hit by a car, and she did pass away.
Oh, no. So, that was truly a premonition. You have that vision,
so
absolutely. And so, if she was 2, you were probably 9 at the time that happened?
I was 9. Yes.
I can't even imagine how devastated you were at that point, Mary. And what point did you leave your mom to go live with your grandmother for a couple of years?
It was shortly after then. I was around, I'm thinking I was around 10, and I stayed with my grandparents for 2 years. And I had stayed with my grandparents off and on a lot, but then my mother would decide that she wanted me back with her because she was, quote-unquote, the mother, and, quote-unquote, my grandparents were spoiling me, which I didn't understand. Love, they loved me.
Right.
I felt accepted and wanted and safe in their home. So I was glad to live with them for 2 years. And that, Lynda, is when I came to a knowledge and relationship of the Lord. That's when I gave my heart to Christ. And it was just so beautiful and so real. And from that point on, I knew that I was in the palm of God's hands. But I have to be honest and say that after my mom demanded that I go back home, I was around 12, and everything just went downhill, spiraled down from then on, and I basically put God on the shelf and, just started living, thinking, and doing the wrong type of thing.
Oh, sure. Again, can truly relate to that. Now, Mary, is your mom still alive?
Yes, she is. She's still alive. She
and what type of relationship?
We have a much better relationship than before.
Okay.
There are certain things I have just had to come to the realization that my mom is always going to be the person that she is, and I can't change her. And I admit that I still wish she would say certain things to me, do certain things for me, but it's not going to happen. I can't change her. I have to love her the way she is and accept her the way she is. We unfortunately, we don't have enough serious mother and daughter talk. It has always been me more the parent figure and her more the child figure. It has always been that way.
Exactly. And do you think that's why she was a little jealous because when you were living with your grandparents?
I think so.
Yeah.
Whether she could provide for me, whether she could provide for me better or not, it didn't matter. The point of the matter was that she was the mother and I belonged to her.
And belonged to her. Isn't that telling right there? And one last thing, what type of relationship does she have with your children? Usually mothers that aren't really great mothers have great relationships with their grandkids. Is that the case?
Well, Lynda, you're really honing in on some sentiments here. Unfortunately, as much as the Lord had to teach me to forgive the inexcusable ones in my life over and over, it's just not a one-time thing. Seeing certain memories and certain feelings would just resurface at a moment's notice just by one word or by one deed that my mother said or did to my children when they were small. And I would get on the defensive. I says, why are you doing this? You're not supposed to do this. Why are you saying that? And that type of thing. Sure. So as much as I was hoping that she would be a better grandmother than she was a mother, unfortunately that necessarily did not happen. However, my children, they know that this is the case of my grandmother, and they accept her, and they'll reach out to her, but it's not staying forever. You know what I mean? I mean, you just you want to honor, and especially now that she's older. So that has been something that I struggle with, I think, my entire life as a Christian. I know I need to honor my mom. I need to honor her. It's the Lord's will that I honor her. And I would go with the best intentions to see her, to take her out to dinner, to take her out to a movie. And ultimately, she would say something very negative without even thinking. She's not realizing what she's saying, how it affects me. And I would have to really struggle and bite my tongue and just go with the flow. But usually it wasn't the way I intended it. It wasn't as happy and as joyful. But, you can fake it until you make it. And I know that, that God accepts her and loves her. And I love my mom.
Absolutely.
I find myself still a little jealous of people who have mothers that can do no wrong, and that because their mothers know how to have that nurturing instinct. That was lacking in my mom, and it's really strange because my grandmother was like a mother to me, and she was a nurturing soul. So I don't know why my mom didn't pick that up. I really honestly don't know. I think one of the setbacks as my grandmother was raising my mom, I think my mom was a little slow, and because of that, I feel that my grandmother overcompensated and did too much for my mom, and that wasn't healthy, because my mom always depended on other people to do things for herself. So she is very much codependent.
Yeah. Well, Mary, rest assured when I tell you, I was on Facebook, I think it was last week, and one of another author friend of mine that I've never met, but I've had her on the show, and, I've helped her do some things with her books. But I caught her in the middle of a conversation with one of her friends who was also on Facebook, and they were talking about how negative their mothers were, and I kind of chimed in and said, oh, I've been there, done that, I have a T-shirt. But I tell you, and I actually told them, I said, if my book, I have a book called Invisible Enemies, because it's a spiritual warfare book, because believe it or not, that's sort of like dealing with spiritual warfare. And that's kind of something that when God started teaching me, the Holy Spirit taught me about spiritual warfare, because I wasn't being taught this information in churches. And I was like, I don't want to know. Why are you showing me this? I don't want to know this. And God told me, He said, you have been dealing with this your whole life. So I say that to say, just like I told the two authors, I said, I had to put a lot of my feelings, my mother's no longer with us, into a book. And and my girlfriends tease me to this day, and they always say, thank God your mother's gone, because if she had read this book while she was alive, she'd have killed you. But it really it released so much of the anger and the frustrations that I had dealing with a mother who was, to me, less than perfect.
Right.
So,
and
yeah.
my mom is about to start reading the book. I am going to hand deliver her a hard copy today. I just got the hard copies in, and I dedicated the book to her. And when I initially told her what I was writing, and I was writing my story and everything, the first thing that came out of her mouth, she starts laughing, and she said, "But Mary, what kind of book is that going to be?" And, I laughed back. I laughed because she had a clue. I laughed back, and I said, "Stranger Than Fiction, of course." And we laughed for a moment. We laughed for a moment, and then she paused, and she asked me, "So are you going to blame me for everything that happened in your life?" And I love that question. We don't have enough of those type of talks. So
exactly.
It led us, oh my gosh, it led us to talking some deep things. I reassured her that absolutely I did not blame her for everything. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt she did the best that she knew to do. She really did. And I'm here to say that even though I had said, I've given the readers a clue about my mom and some of her thoughts and her thinking, it just lets the reader know that that she did try. But she thought differently than, the normal, quote-unquote, person would do or think. And basically, someone said that you love them, you bless them, and you set them free. People must find their own path. They need to find their own path. We may give them help, wish them the best, but ultimately we allow them the freedom to choose their own way. And the way my mom is, she isn't a reflection of me. She's not perfect, but you know what? Neither am I.
Exactly. And and I think when we come into our adulthood, and then we deal with our own marriages and our own children, we get to be a little less critical, don't we, of what our parents did to us. Because now we're walking, as you said, we're running in their heels at that time. Well, believe it or not, Mary, our interview is up. that was such a great interview. I know. Can you believe it? This was absolutely wonderful interview. And again, for the listeners, the title of the book is Running in Heels, a memoir of grit and grace. The author's name is Mary A. Perez, Perez. And again, it's just a wonderful book, Mary, and I really wish you all the best getting your word and your message out there, because you definitely have a word for, believe it or not, right now. It's a lot of young women probably struggling with the same issues, either the abandonment issues or the issues like your mom had. I've got this child, I don't know what to do with it. And I think it's just absolutely wonderful that you put this book out. And for those that would like to find a copy, you can find a copy of the book on Amazon.com. And the Kindle edition is $4.99. The hardcover is $22.49, and the paperback is $13.08. I do have a few more minutes. Also, Barnes & Noble. I usually say any major book retailer, you can get a copy of this book. So always check with them and see how they can get you a copy of the book. Before I let you go, is there one last word you'd like to say to someone that would pick up this book and want to know what exactly is she trying to tell me about her story?
Basically, that you do not have to be a product of your environment. Your past does not define you. Whatever happened to you, you can become better and work and become teachable, not to be bitter. It's so easy to be bitter, but you can overcome. And when you're going through struggles, don't remain a shut-in. Reach out. There's help. There's community. In my case, it was my church. Church and God and my faith is what helped me. But, your past does not define you. Your yesterday does not have to dictate who you are today.
Amen. Amen. And, Mary, one last word on my end would be, God never puts anything on us that's too hard for us to bear. He knows exactly what we can bear. I believe with everything in me, especially since I'm seeing more and more female authors having kind of sort of the same issues, I think this is the thorn in, as Paul says in his book, he had a thorn in his side. Maybe our parents were our thorns in our side to make us run faster and in God's arms, a place of refuge.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you're working on a sequel or another book, make sure you and you go back through Paulette, make sure you get back on my show.
Oh, absolutely, Lynda. And thank you again for inviting me. I really appreciate this. I feel God has given me a platform, and so here I am.
Absolutely. And you know what? You take advantage of that because God doesn't do anything without a reason, Mary.
Amen. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. All right, sweetheart, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll talk to you later, and thank you for stopping by the Author Chat Show.
Thank you, Lynn, for having me.
Bye-bye. Okay, so again, that was author Mary A. Perez. The title of her book is Running in Heels, a memoir of grit and grace. This book, it just, like I mentioned before, we started the interview when I got the author bio and the book bio from WNL Book Tour. I said I can't wait to talk to her. This is a book I didn't want to tell too much about the book because I really do want you to get a copy. And again, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, where any online book retailer or even your local store, just go in and ask for a copy. The Kindle edition, again, is $4.99. The hardcover is $22.49, and the paperback is $13.08. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Author Chat Show. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this Saturday afternoon with you, and we'll be back on the air next Sunday with another guest. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good night.